you wonderful people. Today we're going to be looking at how we can use stimulus. So let's jump in straight away. If you haven't heard of stimulus, it's a JavaScript framework for the HTML you already have. Now, we don't actually need to install anything because by default stimulus is installed on Symfony. So if we head over to the assets, controllers and hello controller, this is an example controller of a stimulus controller. So we don't need all that stuff. So how can we use this? If we go over to one of our templates, we'll just go to the events templates, and let's say inside of here we'll create a div. Now you can also use this shorthand instead of messing around with a bunch of data attributes on a tag. You can just add in this stimulus controller, which comes by default with the twig bundle. So in here we can say hello because that is the name of the controller. So you ignore the underscore controller, that gets taken off. So just hello. Right, so if we do that, okay, so as we can see, we are getting hello stimulus, edit me in your assets controller, hello underscore controller.js, which if we go over to that, it has this content. So it's working. Right, so the first thing we need to look at is targets. Targets are how we can interact with the DOM elements by referencing them by a name. So for example, we can call this output like so. And then if we head over to our code, our template where we've actually implemented something, let's say inside of here, we create a stimulus controller and we can call it hello, like so, which is all fine and good. But let's say we want to have a target. So it could be the same element here, but let's say we have another element that we want to target, and we can say stimulus target, and it's in the hello controller, and then the name of the target was output, and that's it. We can now, if we go back to the hello controller, we can now reference this output element. Oops, a daisy, like so. And we can say target, and now what will happen is when we go to this page, instead of it being on the parent element, it will actually be displayed here. So we could actually add some text, red 600, and that way we can see the difference. So you can see how this can be very useful. You can have multiple targets inside of your element or controller. I forgot to add in the static keyword before the target array. So now if we head over to the and it also needs to be called targets, not target. So if we head over to the show page, we can see that we have the correct data being displayed. So just to double check that it's not inside of the parent, we could say hello, an exclamation mark. So that should be a different color. And as you can see, there it is. And it's black, and this one is red. So it's finding that target and it's outputting the correct data. Okay. we can use some other things in here. We can say, for example, if has output target, like so, and then we can add something in this condition. Sorry, this should be this dot has, like so, and this is just to check if the controller actually has that target. Maybe it doesn't exist at that point, which is very useful. But you can also say, if we console log this, we say this output targets, like so, and this should give us an array of those targets. So if I create a bunch of them like so, and then we can head over to our project, give it a refresh, like so, and then if we check inside of the console, we can see here that we have 5 targets that match that. So that's very useful. And that's pretty much it with targets. Okay, so moving on to values. So static values, like so. And we can define in here a value. So a very common thing to do here is pass in a token. And this was, I think, created pre TypeScript. So before then, having any types in your code was quite difficult with JavaScript. So they have this syntax where you can define the type of the value that's supposed to be passed in. This is very useful. You can also do this, where you can say the type is a string, but then you can also set the default value, and you can say hello, which would be a very terrible token, but you could do that. So we'll just undo this, and for now we shall keep it as just a string. And let's say we want to access this value inside of our code. So let's just get rid of this. We want to put it, for some reason, we want to make it the value or the text content of the target. Okay, so we can say this token value, and that's it. So now if we go back to our template, we can pass in the values directly into the controller. Oops, daisy. So like this token, and then we can create a token that looks, convincing. And then if we go back to our controller, just double check everything's okay. Looks good. Okay, so now if we refresh, we can now see that the value has been output. This is quite useful for if you want some internal things. So for example, if you have a map, you can pass in the token into your controller, and then access the import map from whichever map you're using, and then pass in a token which might come from your .env, for example. So this is values. Is there anything else we need to know with values? Yes. So we can say, for example, we can create a method, and we can call it output value changed, like so. And it'll have an event in there like this. Actually, it won't have an event, sorry. It will have a current and old value, like so. So this will give you the updated value, and this will give you the strangely old value, the previous value. This will be triggered whenever your token gets changed, which is very useful if you want to do some funky stuff. You can then target using targets, update stuff on the template. So yeah, this is what we can do with values. And also, of course, you can do the same thing as you can with targets, where you can say this output values. You can also, and that will return an array of those values. For example, if it's in a loop, you can also define has value. Like so, output value, and that will return a boolean so that you can see if it actually has the value. So this is everything for values. Okay. Now we're going to talk about actions. So an action can be something you want to happen on your. An action is exactly what it sounds like. It's an action. So for example, if you want to say update token, like so, and that will give us an event object. And in here, we're going to say this token, this output target dot text content equals, and we'll just create a different token like so. Okay, so now if we head over to our template, and we're going to create a button. It's going to be a beautiful button, and it's just going to say change. And on the button, we're going to say a stimulus action, and it belongs to the hello controller, and we want to trigger the update token when it's clicked, like so. Did I spell that wrong? Yes, change. And that's about it. Right, so let's give it a go. So if we head over to our project and give it a refresh, you can't really see the button here, but it is there, I promise. And if we click it, there we go, it changed. And as you can see in the console, it also told us that that event was triggered, which is pretty good. So this is how we can use targets. You can also access the event to change, for example, if you wanted to change the button to have a loading status until it was complete, you could do that by accessing the event target. And I think that's it for actions. Right, so we'll create a location controller. So we want to be able to know the location of our current user. So we need to create a controller for it. So we copy the hello controller stuff into there. And now we need to use some values. Right, so in here we need to create a new promise, and then inside of there we can say resolve, and reject. So here we need to access the navigator object. So here we can access the navigator object and then the geolocation and then get current position. We can call this const, not const. Did it again. Huh. Oh, for goodness sake. There we go. Okay, const, we'll call this position, like so. Okay, so now what we will do is we need to use this position somehow. So this will probably return an array, which will be the let's call back. So now we need to define a target. So static targets. So we actually need two targets. We'll need a button. Well, actually, we won't need a button. We'll just need an output. So output, like so. Okay, and then we can say this output target dot inner text is equal to position, like so. We might have to change this later. It might not like the array conversion, but we'll see. Okay, so now we've essentially done with that. We just need to go over to the we're essentially done. So now we're essentially done with the controller. We need to go to the HTML, and we'll find the stimulus controller we created earlier, change that to location, and then inside of here we will add in a button, and we'll give it a class of basically a button. Is there another button in here? No. Yes, this one. Okay, so we created a button, and now we need to add in a stimulus. As you can see, we have action and target. So we need an action, and the action is going to be on the location controller, and the action we want to call is what do we call it? Get current location, and it's going to be on the click event, like so. Excellent. So now we need to add in another stimulus target, and in there it's called output. Do you see it's kind of matching up to what we created? So stimulus action is essentially what it sounds like, is an action. So the action here will click, it will trigger that method, and then whatever is supposed to happen will happen. Let's just see here. Let's first just console log this, and we need to say in here event, and we're going to say event prevent default. Yeah, that's the one. Just so that it doesn't do anything that it's not supposed to do. Right, okay, so if we head over to the application, give it a refresh, and we click current location, and we open up our inspector. In promise, execute current position, geolocate argument required. Of course, oops. Got to pass in the resolve and reject into the current position. Okay, so if we go back, give it another refresh. Okay, and click current location, and we get the array of coordinates, like so. But as you see, there is no output at the moment, and it's because, as I expected, the inner text can't convert the array, or well, in this case actually an object, into text. So we're going to have to fix that. So let's say if the inner text will now be equal to backticks, and we'll say, position, chords, latitude, like so. Okay, so I think we can get rid of the console log now. Go back to our application, give it a refresh, click current location, and nothing happens. Oh no, there we go. We have the latitude and longitude. Let's try that again. There we go. So as you can see, it's not giving us any information that it's loading. So we might want to have that, to display to our user. So what we can do is, so we need to add in a new target. So we're going to call this BTN for button. We head back over to the twig template, and in here add in the stimulus target, and this will be location and BTN, like so. Excellent. So now we can access that in our controller, and we say this BTN target dot inner text is equal to loading. You could replace this with HTML or whatever you wanted. So now we can wrap this in a try catch statement, like so. Catch, and then the error. And what we can do in here is we can say this output target inner text is equal to the error. Message, like so. And then in here we can say finally, and then the last thing we want to do is set the button back to the default value, which was current location, like so. And finally, just add in the output in the try block. Now, if we go over to our application, we can click current location and loading, and there we go. It gives us the latitude and longitude, and then changes back to the correct value. And if we click it again, it will load the same data. Let's just test that catch statement is working. So if I turn off my Wi-Fi here and then click current location, we can see we get the message saying that there's a problem. So we know that this is now working. And that is how we can create some pretty cool things with Stimulus.js. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out my book. Use the QR code to find it. Have a good day.